Nature has given us air, water, animal and plant life, soil and minerals, and many other things. They are called natural resources, which help us directly and indirectly to survive. Forests are an important natural resource and help us in many ways. In this lesson, we shall study the different types of forests and how we can conserve them. Forests. A forest is a large area of land thickly covered with trees and having a rich natural environment. Wild animals and plants living in forests depend on them for their survival. Forests are rich in natural vegetation, trees and plants that grow without being planted by man as well as wildlife. Importance of forests. Trees produce oxygen during photosynthesis, which is vital for life on Earth. They are rightly called Earth's lungs. Trees growing in forests provide us shade and also keep the surrounding areas cool. Forests provide food and shelter for wild animals. Forests absorb many toxic gases and thus purify the air. The roots of trees hold the forest soil particles together and prevent soil erosion. This also helps in improving the quality and fertility of soil. Forests also give us different kinds of fruits and nuts and valuable medicinal herbs.
The leaf, bark, and fruits of some trees, such as eucalyptus, cinchona, and tulsi, are known to cure infections or diseases miraculously.
The wood we get from trees is also very useful. We use it for making furniture, doors and windows of houses, boats, ships, and as firewood. Softwood is used for making paper, plywood, pencils, and matchsticks. People who do not have access to the gas stove have to depend on firewood which they get from trees. Rubber, honey, lac, and gum are also some valuable forest produce. Types of forests found in India. India is a large and geographically diverse country.
Indian forests include evergreen forests, deciduous forests, coniferous forests,
and thorn and scrub forests. They are found in different regions and influence the life of the people there in many ways. Evergreen forests. As the name suggests, evergreen forests look green all through the year. This is because trees in these forests do not shed all their leaves at the same time. The trees are very tall and have hard wood. In India, evergreen forests are dense forests found in the hot, wet regions that receive heavy rainfall. Evergreen forests are found on the slopes of the Western Ghats in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. They are also present in the northeast states like Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Tripura, and West Bengal, as well as in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands.
Deciduous forests. Deciduous forests are also called monsoon forests. Deciduous trees shed their leaves every year. In India, deciduous forests are found in the foothills of the Himalayas, the Deccan Plateau, as well as in states like Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, and Bihar.
The main trees in these forests are teak, mahua, sal, and shisham.
Coniferous forests. Coniferous
Forests are mostly found on the slopes of the Himalayas. Tall, cone-shaped trees with needle-shaped leaves are found along the higher slopes of the mountains. Their wood is soft.
pine, deodar, spruce, and fir are common coniferous trees.
Thorny and scrub forests. Thorny and scrub forests are mostly found in and around the dry desert areas of Gujarat, Rajasthan, parts of Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and parts of the Deccan Plateau. We find mostly bushes growing in such forests. The trees have long roots, a thick bark, sharp and small thorns, and can survive on very little water for a long time. Thorny and scrub forests have mostly babool, kikar, and date palms.
आज ट्यूटोरियल्स ने सब कुछ कितना आसान बना दिया है। मैथ्स और साइंस के जो कॉन्सेप्ट कभी समझ नहीं आते थे, वो आज
Deforestation is the permanent destruction of forests and forest areas to make the land available for other uses. Many a time, man destroys forest land to construct factories, buildings, etc. in its place. This not only destroys the plant life there, but also the animal life that depends on it. Deforestation also leads to increased carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, soil erosion, and natural disasters such as floods and landslides due to climatic changes. Furthermore, destruction of forests means loss of habitat for animals and plant life. Conservation of forests. Forests are renewable resources. A lot of forests and forest areas are being cut, mainly because of increasing population. However, the government is taking active steps to protect our forests and the wildlife that depends on them.
Hi children, today we are in grade 4. In today's class we are going to learn about natural resources, and under natural resources the topic is forest. So forest is a natural resources. Now first thing we have to come to know about what is natural resources. What do you mean by natural resources? The resource which we get from the nature is called as natural resources. For example, we get air, water, natural resources including this forest. We get air from the trees. Togetherness, when we see the more trees together, that part we call it as forest. So what do you mean by natural resources? The resources which we get from the nature, which is not done by the we human beings, that we call it as natural resources. For example, I told air, water, soil and forest, all these are example for natural resources. So in today's class we are going to learn about forest. So what do you mean by forest? A forest means where we see more trees and plants together, close together, that we call it as forest. So here this is from the natural resources. So forest is a natural resource. Now can we see some of the uses or what we get from the forest? What do we get? We see usually we breathe. Yes, without breathing we cannot live. So when we breathe oxygen. Where do we get this oxygen? We get the oxygen from the trees. That is fresh air. We get oxygen from the trees. So one useful of this forest is first thing trees. And also we get another thing is we get wood from the forest. What is the use of wood? We use this wood for building or for constructing purpose. We build factories, industries, house. So whatever we use for building is we use wood for the building or construction purpose. The next is what else we get from the forest? We get fruits, we get flowers and also animals take shelter from the forest. Even the birds also build their nest in the forest. This is about the uses of forest. Now the next thing, what is this? The features and different types. We don't have only single type of forest. We have different types of forest. Now under forest today we are going to learn some of the important types of forest. The first, I think in your page 3 you can observe they have given some pictures of the different types of forest. Okay. The first one is coniferous forest. What is it? Coniferous forest. So what is this coniferous forest? This is the first type of forest. This type of coniferous forest are found in the region such as Himalayan and also Nilgiri mountains. Where do we find this coniferous forest? We find this forest in the Himalayan and Nilgiri mountains. Why do we find only in this Himalayan regions means because these regions are quite cold. Why means Himalaya means we know Hima means snow. Okay, so this is a snow-fed forest. We see only because the region, the coniferous means cold. We see the cold part in this forest. So we call it as coniferous forest. And also it also snows on the Himalayas. Okay, because the snow falls on the Himalayas. And the trees, you can observe in your first picture, that is coniferous forest. They have given, for example, they have given pine. Example for this forest is pine and cedar. Okay, so here it is said that features means what are the features of this forest? We see a tree because the tree what we see there are like tawny shape and they will be very at the top. It will be thin. When we come to the bottom, it will be wide. Why? Because when the snow falls on these leaves, well, we find these leaves are very sharp needled. Okay, these leaves will be sharp needle type leaves we have. When the snow falls on these leaves, it falls down. Not to collect the snow on the trees, they are this type of trees we find in the coniferous forest. For example, pine and cedar. We come to the features. When we come to the feature of this coniferous forest, we see that the trees are, just now I wrote the picture, no? That type of trees that are pine and cedar, what actually, the trees are pointed leaves. I showed you they have pointed leaves because like this type of trees we find, it will be pointed. Okay, and also narrow at the top. I said narrow means small at the top and broad at the end. Okay, for example, I told pine and cedar. This is about the coniferous forest. Once again I will explain. Coniferous forest we find in the Himalayan and Nilgiri mountains. Okay. We'll move to the next type of forest, that is second one after coniferous forest, evergreen forest. What is this? Evergreen forest. Where do we find such type of forest? I think by the name only you can see that evergreen means always it will be green. It won't change it or it don't shed its leaves. The trees won't shed its leaves during in this evergreen forest. Now, evergreen forests are found in hot and wet regions. Hot and wet regions of India. So, this type of forests are also found in our India. There is plenty of rain. Means evergreen means because it should be always green means always we see that it will be raining throughout the season and also hot because it is said that wet and hot regions. We find this type of forest in wet and hot regions. Wet means always it will be raining. Hot means the sunshine will also falls on this forest or on trees. Okay. So where do we find such type of evergreen forest? We find this in Western Ghats. Where do we find this? We find this forest in Western Ghats. Not only in the Western Ghats, also we find this again coming to this evergreen forest. Here the leaves are in this place, in this evergreen forest, it is also okay. The second one is evergreen forest. Now, where do we find this evergreen forest? Evergreen forests are found in hot and wet regions. We find this type of forest in hot and wet regions. Okay. Now, coming to this hot and wet regions means hot is the sun shines always falls on this forest. Okay. And wet regions means the rainfall will be always, it will be raining on in these regions. Okay. For example, Western Ghats and also of India and on the Andaman Nicobar Islands. Where do we find this type of forest? We find this type of forest in where? In the Andaman and Nicobar Islands and whereas in the Western Ghats of our India. This is about the location. Coming to the features. Yes, about the feature, this trees, the evergreen forest trees, they never shed their leaves. Okay, they never shed their leaves completely and always look green. So it is called as evergreen forest. What do we call it as? Evergreen forest. Okay, we'll move to the third one now. Third one is deciduous forest. The third one is deciduous forest. So what is this deciduous forest? Now coming to deciduous forest, where do we find this type of forest is? These forests grow in the peninsular plateau. Where do we find this? In the peninsular plateau region. It is peninsular plateau region.
India.
Okay, we find such type of deciduous forest that is in peninsular plateau of our India. They are also found along in the foothills of the Himalayas. As we saw that coniferous forest is also found in Himalayas. Along with that, we also see deciduous in the foothills of the Himalayas and also in the peninsular plateau of the region. Coming to the features. What are the features of this deciduous forest? These trees, yes, the trees in these forests live and grow in different kinds of weather. Means it depends on the climate. Depending on the climate, we see this deciduous forest. They are also, now these trees have broad flat leaves. What does they have? They have broad flat leaves. They require lots of water. So coming to deciduous forest, in the evergreen forest we saw that every time it will be raining and also it will be wet and hot. So coming to deciduous forest, they need these type of trees, which means they have flat and broad leaves. So this type of trees, they need more or lot of water to grow or to survive. Hence they shed their leaves during the dry season, that is during the summer season. For example, gulmohar and teak. Which are the example now? Gulmohar. This is one of the tree, gulmohar tree, and also teak. These two trees, for example, for the deciduous forest. We'll move to the next forest, next type of forest after the deciduous forest. Fourth one, it is thorny and scrub forest. What it is? Thorny and scrub forest. So by hearing this name only, thorny and scrub means dry land. But by hearing this name only, you can find out that we find this type of forest in the dry land. Where do we find such type of forest? We find such type of forest in the hot and dry areas. Yes, where it is hot and dry areas. Okay, I think you all know where do we get this in our India. Where do you find hot and dry places? Rajasthan. Okay, because it is a desert land. Okay, now I told that we found this type of in the dry and hot regions. Dry and hot regions. So where do we find these dry and hot regions? As I told, we find this in Rajasthan and also Gujarat. Some parts means total Rajasthan and Gujarat, and also some parts of Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. Okay, this is where we found thorny and scrub forest. Coming to the features, the types or the rays of the sun. Because it is hot, we know the rays of the sun are very strong in these regions because of less rain or scanty rain, we can say. It is very hard. So there we have very little rainfall. So the trees and plants live with less water. They have to survive with less water. Okay, and also that they have become thorns because of less water. We see the plants with thorns. Thorns, you all know the needles which, for example, rose plant. Rose plant also have thorns, but here we see only thorny plants. Okay, because why means they are thorny? Because of less water. They can't get more water or they won't get water. They need more water but they get very less water because of the less rainfall. We find, for example, for this thorny beds, it is about bubble and keeker. What are the examples for this? Bubble and keeker. Once again, this is the fourth one, thorny and scrub forest. We find this type of forest in dry and hot regions, for example Rajasthan, Gujarat and some parts of Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. And also what are the features of this forest is there will be less rainfall. So because of the less water, the plants will be thorny. Okay, and for example bubble and keeker. So we will move to the fifth important forest, that is tidal forest. The fifth one is tidal forest. So what is this tidal forest? Tidal forest means this is the fifth one, tidal forest. So what is this means? We find this type of tidal forest in the land, means where the land is flooded by sea water, such as the river deltas of West Bengal. Location is where we find such type of, that is in the West Bengal, where the delta of West Bengal. I think in the last class you know what is delta, peninsula. Yes, so we find this type of tidal forest in the deltas of West Bengal. What are the features of this? The features are the roots of these fruits. Actually, the roots of these trees or the forest we find here grow enough air. Why actually the roots are grown out means because to get enough air. Okay, I think these are some of the important forests we come across. The first one is coniferous forest, evergreen forest, deciduous forest, thorny and scrub forest, and the last one we come across is tidal forest. Now, this is about the forest. The next thing we have to know that what affects the vegetation of a place. How it affects? What are the effects of the vegetation? What are the effects of the vegetation? What are the effects of the vegetation? For example, factors such as temperature and rainfall. Even if it is more rain, we can't survive. Even if it is very hot, if the temperature is very high, even it will be very difficult. Now, we see some of the factors such as temperature and rainfall of a region will determine the type of forest found there. Means that looking at the temperature and the climate, we can tell that which forest it is. Okay. Now, coming to the first one, I think you can see in your page number 4. Since if we see a tall mountains in India, means tall mountains in India are extremely cold. If it is cold, can you name which is the forest? I said that there will be pine-shaped leaves. Which one? Yes, it is coniferous forest. Which one? It is coniferous forest. Now, coming to the next point, next factor, it is hot climate and heavy rainfall. Where do we see hot climate and heavy rainfall? Even if the rain is also there and hot is also there, means we see evergreen forest. Yes. Which one, children? It is evergreen forest. The next factor is which affects the vegetation is that it is scanty rainfall. What do you mean by scanty? Means less. What do you mean by scanty? Less. Okay? Means less water, where we get less rainfall and high temperature make which forest? Can you name it? Which is that? Where do you find this thorny plant? Yes, it is in the thorny and scrub forest. I think you can, in your page number 5, they have given a picture. There you can find, they have named hot region, wet region, less rainfall, more rainfall, and without rainfall means very little rainfall. You can look at the picture. We will move to the next part, that is what will happen in forest if forests are destroyed. I think you only can tell what happens if there is no rain or if there is no forest. Can you please tell me what happens? Yes, what will happen if forests are destroyed? See, we have learned how forests are useful to us. We saw that it is helpful for us too because it gives us oxygen to breathe. Yes, it also gives us wood. Even the paper are also made up of bamboo. Yes, so we have many uses of forest or the trees. So if the forests are destroyed, what happens? Means because if the first one is deforestation. What happens? Deforestation. What do you mean by this deforestation? What is this? When does it occur? When does it happen? Deforestation occurs when trees of a forest, what it is? Trees of a forest area or of land are cut down. When we cut the trees, means in such area or any forest, when we cut down all the trees, but not the, if we don't replant it, at least if we cut a tree, we have to replant, means a new sapling has to be planted. But when we don't do that, only if we cut the trees, what happens? We find deforestation. So it affects very seriously. It affects very badly to our environment. It affects very badly to our environment. So actually, why does this deforestation occur? What are the reasons for this deforestation? So the first one is, we come across the reasons is, the first one, forests are cleared so that the land can be used for farms. Means maybe they may be constructing some industries. Also the land can also be used for the farms. or also buildings and making or constructing the roads and also factories. This is the first cause. Okay, and coming to the next one, trees from forests are used for as raw materials. Means they are used as raw materials to make products. Why means these trees are used as raw materials for making products such as paper and rubber, because we get rubber from the rubber tree, paper from the bamboo tree. The next third point we come across is, the first one is what happens? Forests are cleared or the trees are cut down for constructing the buildings and also roads and factories and also for the farming purpose. The second point is they are used as raw materials for making paper and also rubber. The third point, forests are cut down for mining purpose. You all know mining? It is also used for mining purpose. So when natural resources found under the earth, I said some of the natural resources like coal, iron, okay, these are all found under the ground. Okay, so earth's surface such as coal or minerals are dug. Means how can we get this? Through mining only. What is mining? When we dig the soil or the earth, that part we call it as mining. So it is when we bring all these resources out of the ground, it is called mining. Okay, shall we move to the next one? This is about the deforestation. Now, what are the effects of? So now, just now we saw the causes. The next point we will come across effects of deforestation. What are the effects of deforestation? We know that we will cut the trees, we use them as raw materials like making paper and eraser. So after doing all this mining, everything, and what are the effects of this deforestation? If forests are destroyed, all the life, that is we, animals, birds, plants, trees, and we also human beings on the earth will be harmed. Means we are affected, we are harmed. So let us read about some effects of the deforestation. So we'll read now what are the effects of the deforestation. Now the first one, plants observe. We know that we all breathe. We all breathe oxygen, right? Who gives us oxygen? Trees gives us oxygen. So when they give out oxygen, they breathe carbon dioxide. We breathe oxygen, they breathe carbon dioxide. Okay, this is about the first effect now. When this carbon dioxide and given oxygen, destroying the forest changes the climate. Means when we destroy these forests, it changes the climate of deforestation. The next point, this is the first effect now. We'll go to the next point, that is the roots of trees. We know that the roots of trees hold the soil. Yes, because of that only the trees will be able to survive, or else what happened? It will fall down. So here the roots of trees hold soil firmly, means very tightly together. So when it rains, when the rain falls on these trees, the soil can quickly soak. Soak means absorb. Okay, soaking is absorbing this rainfall water, and also when it rains, the soil can quickly absorb and also soak in the water. But deforestation makes it the soil loose. What happens? Because of when we cut the trees, what happens? The soil will get loose. And when there is heavy rain, the water flows away quickly. So we see that when in the roads and all, if the rain is very heavy, means the water will flow. Yes. So here also in the forest, when the water rains very heavily, the water will take out the soil. So here soil erosion will be there. Okay. This because of the heavy rainfall, even it is affected by the soil erosion. Where in the mountain areas, and also deforestation leads to landslides. What affects? It affects in the landslides. Okay. The next point is deforestation disrupts the water cycle. It disrupts the water cycle. So there is less rainfall and the water bodies. What happens? If there is less rainfall and the water bodies will dry up. Okay? These are the effects of deforestation. Till now we have understood about this. Now coming to the reforestation. What do you mean by this reforestation? You know the word re means again. Yes? So in the deforestation what happens? We cut the trees, we don't plant it again. We don't plant the new plant. But coming to the reforestation means to plant the trees again in an area where there was a forest earlier, not somewhere else. Before it was forest, we have cut down all the trees, but now we are planting new plants in the same area. That is called as reforestation. It can also refer to planting trees in a place where the number of trees are decreasing. Means the less, where we see less trees in the forest, it gets decreasing. So what we have to do is, we have to plant more trees. Okay, or more saplings over there. This is about the reforestation. Now coming to the afforestation. What do you mean by this afforestation? The place or land but no forest. A place is there but there is no forest. That we call it as afforestation. So what is this afforestation? It is a process. What is afforestation? It is the process of planting trees in a barren land. Barren land means dry, where we don't see any trees over there, not the cut down trees or any trees will not be there. It will be totally empty, where there we have to plant new plants. That part we call it as afforestation. Okay, and also now this is about the forest. In the next class we will continue with the natural resource soil. Okay children, thank you.